All right, here we are. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. I'm Bernie Denler. How are you doing tonight, Dave?
I am doing well. I'm Dave Goji, and we just want to welcome you to our first episode of our new Facebook Live show, the Colchester What's Happening show. And so this show is about presenting and discussing local Colchester news and anything interesting that's happening in our town, including having guests come on the show as well, which is very, very fun.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. Like Dave said, this is our first show, so bear with us while we work out the kinks in it. But we think this is going to be a fun way to talk about some of the things that are happening in Colchester. Personally, I come from a background that was in broadcast journalism. I ended up working in municipal government, so that's what I do now. But I thought that it would be cool to use some of those skills and interests that I had back in my broadcasting days and do something with what's happening here in Colchester. And Dave, I know you have an interest in leveraging social media to connect with people in town and build a little bit more community. So I think this is a great way to do that.
Absolutely. I've been in Colchester for about 11 years, and it's been great. I've got involved with different boards and commissions, and but like to your point, leveraging social media has been such a great way to connect with people using that technology, just for not only for the boards and so forth that we're on, but also some of the entrepreneurial side of the things I've been doing in town, starting some businesses as well. And it's been really great, and really looking forward to getting into this new thing we're doing here. And so looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be exciting. We're going to be going over some of the biggest stories that are affecting our town right now. And we think it'll be a good resource so that residents can stay up to date on what's happening right here in Colchester.
Yeah, so before we actually get started in the fun, so if you're watching live, and I see we have a pretty decent audience growing here. So if you're watching live, feel free to drop a comment within the live feed, and we'll read and respond to some of your thoughts and questions at the end of the show. And also tell us how we can improve. What did you like about the show? What you didn't like about the show? We're always looking to make ourselves better and make the show better.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to tell us when we're wrong, because we're going to be wrong, at least sometimes.
Well, I'm not going to be wrong. Maybe you'll be wrong, but I'm not going to be wrong. So, Bernie, let's get started. Let's dive into what's happening in Colchester this week.
Well, Dave, a big story, and this is going to be one to watch for a while. The race to represent Colchester in the 48th district in the Connecticut General Assembly is underway. On the Republican side, there's two candidates that have declared so far. We've got Selectman Mark DiCaprio of Lebanon and former Colchester Selectman Taras Rudko. So some of you may remember Mark DiCaprio ran against both Linda Orange and Brian Smith, our current state rep, but came up short in those races. Things have changed quite a bit in the district since then, though. The November 2022 election is going to be the first race with a new 48th district map. So that map now includes all of Colchester. So if your state rep is currently Irene Haynes, you're no longer part of her district after November, and you're going to have the chance to vote in the 48th district race. The new district map dropped portions of Willimantic and Mansfield and picked up the towns of Basra and Franklin. On the Democratic side, current state rep Brian Smith has announced he is not going to be seeking re-election, and there are no candidates declared so far on the Democratic side. So there's a lot to watch there. The dynamics are going to be very different than what we've seen in the last couple of races. So this is going to be a story that we're going to be following for a little while.
Yeah, so that is very interesting. And you mentioned that there's no Democrats declared so far. So why do you think that is, Bernie? Why haven't we seen a little bit more participation there?
Well, I think it's a little early still. Obviously, there's the two candidates on the Republican side that I mentioned, but the dynamics on that side of the aisle are a little bit different for a race like this one. The Democrats had an incumbent, so a lot of people expected that Brian Smith would run for re-election, so there wasn't a lot of jockeying necessarily behind the scenes. People weren't lining up to run. On the Republican side, they knew, since the last election that they were going to need to run candidates. So there were people who, were kind of hedging their bets, staking their game. No big surprise, the two candidates on the Republican side who've announced so far. I think a lot of people expected that both of those folks would jump into the race. On the Democratic side, Democrats are asking themselves, some of them personally, should they run for this office. And my guess is that it's not going to be long before some people jump into this race. But we'll have to wait a little while longer for that. Whenever that does happen, I definitely want to put the offer out there for those people. Come on our show. We've got a guest tonight, not a political guest, but when people do declare for the 48th district, we'd love to have them on to do an interview. Yeah. And I put that offer out there to the two candidates who are in the race already. If they happen to be watching, you want to come on the show and be interviewed, we'd love to have you.
Yeah, and it's a big time commitment. I have spoken to Brian, and it is definitely something that you have to be dedicated to, put the time in. And, you know, I do hope that we do see some competitiveness in the race. But to your point, you know, if there's an opportunity to interview any of the folks running, we definitely would love to have you on.
What else is going on in town, Dave?
Yeah, so let's move forward here. Special town meeting has been scheduled by the Colchester Board of Selectmen for Thursday, March 17th at the Town Hall. The purpose of the meeting is to consider an application under CTIP. CTIP is the Colchester Tax Incentive Program for a whiskey infusion business at 200 Lebanon Avenue. The name of that business is actually Arc Distillery, and the 200 Lebanon Ave is actually the site of the former Westchester Woods furniture store. The owners of the Arc Distillery describe the business as fun, socially responsible, and environmentally friendly.
This is going to be a fun one. I'm excited to see this business come to town. I hope that we see this CTIP application pass. But people got to come out and come to town meeting, because that's the purpose of town meeting, is to get public participation for stuff like this.
So Bernie, could you kind of explain to the folks watching what CTIP is and kind of why that's important?
Yeah, so CTIP is the Colchester Tax Incentive Program. It's largely administered by the Economic Development Commission. A few years back, I served on the EDC. And that was actually at a time where we weren't getting a lot of CTIP applications. But the purpose of CTIP is to encourage businesses that are either doing something new, making some sort of improvement to the town, making some sort of improvements to the spaces that they're occupying, some incentive to, you know, choose Colchester over some of the other surrounding municipalities. The way it works is those businesses are eligible to get some sort of tax relief related to the property. It varies depending on what the application is, and the details of this specific application can be found in the town clerk's office. So if you want to check that out before the special town meeting, that is available. But generally, the purpose of CTIP is, like I said, to encourage growth in town, new job creation, expansion of businesses, attract forms of commercial development that aren't currently offered, expand opportunities and services, foster development of startup and new companies, and also to grow our town tax base and to more equitably distribute the tax burdens in town. So by offering, a little bit up front, saying, well, we're not going to tax some of this in the first year or the first few years, we get the business to come to town, then they're there, then they're paying taxes in future years. And sometimes even if the business doesn't necessarily survive, the improvements that they made still become part of the tax base when somebody else comes and takes it over. But obviously this is certainly a business that we want to see do well, and we want to see, perform. It's unique. We don't have anything like it in town right now. We've seen success from breweries, but this would be something a little bit different.
I love the fact that a new business is opening up, especially during these times. It's very promising. It's very exciting. And just to touch upon this business a little bit more. So if you're wondering what like whiskey infusion is, whiskey infusion is like adding additional ingredients into the whiskey, such as fruits, vegetables, herbs, and spices. Essentially the stuff that my daughters put in their milk right at the dinner table, but it's in whiskey. So if you're feeling adventurous, they could add cheese or smoked ham or cooked bacon, all types of meats as well. So I'll be very interested in what fun concoctions they come up with to make it, fun, as they say. I think it's going to be a good addition to the town and hopefully draw some people out of town into town as well. So looking forward to it.
Whiskey infusion, not something I was really familiar with, but I'm excited to see it. One of the things that I heard about the business that's coming is that although they're not going to be distilling on site immediately, they do have a long-term goal of being able to distill in Colchester at this location. I think it's a 6-year plan. So they've got long-term goals, and I hope we get to see those be accomplished. But people got to come out to town meeting to approve their application, because I know that those business owners are counting on it. So another subject that came out of the recent Board of Selectmen meeting was that the Board of Selectmen is expected to demonstrate a hybrid meeting room concept also at their March 17th regular meeting. So that's going to come right after the town meeting for the CTIP application. Recent Board of Selectmen meetings, if you've been following along, have not allowed for public access via Zoom or other teleconferencing means. But the board is going to consider using money received under the American Rescue Plan to fund the purchase. It's about $70,000. So I want to talk a little bit more about this subject because it's been causing a lot of scuttle on social media. Dave, have you seen anything about this?
I have, and I think I'll just start off by saying that the hybrid meeting room is a good thing. And there's not one person, especially on the Board of Selectmen, that said it wasn't a good idea. It wasn't something that we need. And not just because of COVID, but it allows the community, like our elderly population, those parents with children, like myself, or if you're just the average person who doesn't want to get off the couch, right? It allows you to stay connected to the town and participate in the process, especially when you're able to speak up in the citizens' comments as well. And it gives everyone, it just fosters inclusion of the full town.
Yeah, so this is a subject that I'm really interested in and that I care a lot about because when I was serving on Board of Finance, I came on at the very beginning of COVID, and we got to see a lot of really awesome public participation as Zoom kind of changed the public interaction process for these meetings. Now things have kind of changed again, but the Board of Selectmen recently stopped holding their meetings via Zoom, and it happened really abruptly. And there's been a lot of controversy about the reasons why that suddenly happened. So when that took place, I wanted to make sure that people could stay connected. So I started going to the Board of Selectmen meetings. Some of you who are watching now probably have seen me streaming those Board of Selectmen meetings. And one of the things I've been saying is that we need to make sure that there is still that public access. And a lot of people are clamoring for it. Some of the controversy that we saw about this meeting that just took place when there was some consideration of the hybrid meeting room was some of the Board of Selectmen members said that they weren't ready to vote on the proposal that night, which led some other people, including some people on the Board of Selectmen, to say, well, those people don't support the process. They don't support hybrid meetings or the purchase of the hybrid meeting room. And I think if you were really listening to that meeting, that at least that's not the way that I read that conversation at all. And I don't think that there's any members of the Board of Selectmen who don't support the proposal. But those of us who've been following along, we've been told that at that meeting, we were going to get a demonstration of that hybrid meeting software and the platform. So we were expecting that, they were going to come in, they were going to bring the cameras, they were going to bring the setup, and they would show it to us. Instead, if you were there, there was a guy, good presentation, but he had pieces of paper. He didn't have something ready to go. Some of the Board of Selectmen said, this is a big purchase. We're talking about $70,000 and we want to get it right. So they had questions, and ultimately the decision was that they're going to hold off. There's going to be a demonstration. We're all going to get to see how it works. And my hope is that the board is going to be able to say, once they've seen it, that this is a platform that they're comfortable purchasing, that they're ready to move forward with it. I get that the price tag's big, but it's also a really important thing. And we do want to make sure that we get it right. So I'm excited to see this happen. I do think that it has been politicized a little bit more than I expected. But I think that, the questions that have been asked, they're important questions. And I think that the Board of Selectmen members who ask them have the right to ask them. But, if you disagree, sound off in the comments, tell me that I'm wrong. You know the drill.
Well, in my opinion, you're not wrong. I think a Board of Selectmen have to be good stewards of how the money is being spent. There has been discussion about, well, they should have done their homework prior, but knowing that the representative from that company is coming to do a demonstration on specifically what the town is looking to purchase, I'm not sure how much research you would do in that situation. Personally, if I was in their shoes, I would get, okay, so they're going to have a demonstration of exactly what we're going to buy. Great, let me see it. Let me make a decision. They didn't do that. If they did if there was a better presentation, they would have put it to a vote and everyone would have agreed to it. Personally, I don't think anyone on the Board of Selectmen is going to say no to the hybrid meeting.
My guess is it's going to be unanimous.
Yeah.
But they want to see it. And you know what? As a resident, I want to see it too. I wanted to see it then, and I'm looking forward to seeing it next week. Another interesting subject that came up at last week's Board of Selectmen meeting, and this is kind of a fun subject. A group of residents is asking the town to consider putting in place an ordinance on dog litter. Yeah, so that's
Mm,
right. We're talking about dog poop
dog
here.
litter.
Um, right now, Colchester has no ordinance that directly requires people to pick up after their dogs in public. So supporters say that being able to find people who leave dog litter behind would make others more likely to do the right thing. They say it's been successful in towns like Glastonbury. Others have expressed concern that adding a new ordinance to the book is just going to create new problems for a police force that many residents have already said is understaffed. So, Dave, tell me, what do you think about this one? What about the
Well,
dog?
here's the final solution. I don't know, but I'll tell you what I do think. So, as with everything, kind of how I see things is that the first selectman did say that there's other towns that have been successful with a similar ordinance. There's been towns that have not been successful with a similar ordinance. So I think we have to look at the bright spots. You have to look at those towns that successfully implemented this, and what did they do to actually make it stick, and how do they make it work? Because on its face, theoretically speaking, it makes a lot of sense. You
Right.
put this ordinance in, people will stop, but that's not always the case when you put an ordinance in. It still has to be enforced. And I think a lot of people are hung up on how is it going to be enforced? Are we going to have people calling the police station every other day? Hey, John, my neighbor's didn't pick up the dog litter again. But so I think that once we understand how other towns have implemented it and how they have found success with it, that's when we can start to have that conversation. But I think the back and forth at this point it is not really valuable if we don't know how it's being done in other towns. I think it's a fun subject. It's definitely kind of funny, but it does make people mad at the same time. And people are fed up. And I think that the great thing about this government or government in general is you have a voice, speak up, and maybe you can get something on the books. But I do think that you have to look at how other towns have done it, what their failures, what the successes are, and then we can kind of see how we can implement that in our town.
Yeah, so I thought it was great to see the residents who came to the Board of Selectmen meeting. I do think it's always encouraging when you see, members of a community come together. When I first got to the meeting, I was like, there's a lot of people here who I don't recognize. What is the hot topic at this meeting? I did not expect that it was the dog litter ordinance. I've got mixed feelings about the subject. So on one hand, people should pick up after their dogs. Like, that's no question. I have a dog. I don't leave, just lying all over the place. At the same time, as somebody who works in municipal government, I'm sensitive to the fact that local resources are really strained. When it comes to any kind of enforcement, whether it's zoning or policing, something like this, anytime you put a new ordinance on the books, it's going to strain local government's ability to deal with other problems. And so I'm not sure how effective it will be if or what the other negative ramifications will be if it just becomes something where it's tying up police lines or tying up the selectman's office, dealing with complaints that ultimately can't be acted upon because somebody's dog poops on the ground and they walk away. By the time anybody gets there, is there anything you can really do about it? One of the things I'm curious to know about towns like Glastonbury where there's being done is, one, how much larger is their police force? Two, how often are they actually issuing the fines? And three, obviously, is the other part, is how effective has it been? I've been told it's effective, but I'm curious, is it effective because the policy is a deterrent, or is it effective because it actually gets enforced and then people stop doing it? I did share a link in the comments to the show. The town is doing a survey on this through some platform. It was posted on the town website. So if you have thoughts, whether the town should or should not adopt an ordinance on dog litter, click the link in the comments, go ahead and take the poll, and don't just tell us what you think, tell the town what you think. But also, of course, feel free to leave some comments in the live feed that we can read near the end of the broadcast.
Awesome. Moving forward. Excuse me. So another new business startup, right? So a new urgent care facility is open on 100 Linwood Ave in Colchester. The grand opening for the Colchester Urgent Care is Saturday, March 19th at 2 p.m. This business is already seeing patients by walk-ins or appointments for the urgent care portion. And they also offer aesthetic services such as Botox, cryoskin, hair restoration, what I may have to do soon back there, Bernie, and other services as well. So if you attend the grand opening, they are giving away 3 grand prizes, which are free cryoskin services. Cryoskin is like, it takes inches off your stomach, or it kind of smooths out your skin. It's 5 treatments each, which is a $1,500 value. Along with that, they're giving away 10% off coupons for any aesthetic service for the first 10 people who sign up. So it'll be worthwhile your time to go. Welcome a new business in town. And it's just really important to support our local businesses, especially when it comes to like local medical facilities especially during this time. So I know Dr. Shree over at the Colchester Urgent Care, and he's a personable individual. He's a comforting guy, and he'll take great care of you. So make sure to check that out.
That's good to hear. I'm always, when you live in a town like this, we're a little bit rural, always good to make sure that we have, medical services.
Yeah, for sure.
And, when we're going through the pandemic, didn't know some of the facilities that we do have, how they would make out. Glad to see that some of them are doing well, and also to see that we got a new one opening. We also want to take a moment to recognize another business in town as we highlight some of the best of Colchester. I know that we have all been shocked and horrified to see some of the scenes coming out of Ukraine over the last couple of weeks during Russia's unprovoked invasion. There's tremendous need right now, with well over 1 million refugees having fled the country already. And some Colchester residents are working to help meet that need. Earlier last week, Oz and Bones served as a collection site for humanitarian aid bound for Ukraine. During times like these, it can be hard to know what we can do to make a difference. So it's great to see community members coming together to take an action. So we want to give a shout out to Oz and Bones for their role in that, serving as a collection site, and of course to any residents who participated and helped donate.
Yeah, this is just showing the power of compassion that we can have for one another, even if it's the ones that we're supporting are not in our country. It's a selfless gesture. It's really cool. And I encourage everyone to help in this cause in one way or another, right? Mm-hmm. And it's just really cool. It's really cool to see this.
Absolutely. And, we do have a large Ukrainian population here in Colchester. So, for our Ukrainian friends and neighbors who are listening, we want to make sure that that our thoughts are with you. We want to support you. And don't be afraid to reach out because, what's going on right now is, shocking the world. And it affects communities like this one. We know you have people back home that you care about. I have some friends who, immigrated here from Ukraine, and it's been a tough time, I know, for them. It feels like there's not a lot we can do. And, practically there's not. You can give aid, you can donate, but also be there to support your community members because some of them do really need it right now.
Yeah, for sure. Alrighty, so our kind of keeping on the theme with community, I want to introduce our guest for tonight. So hopefully she is on.
She should be here in just a second. Let's see if
this works. So I do want to welcome Kim from Colchester Cares. Colchester Cares is a local group of citizens dedicated to bring community members together and combining financial resources to support common causes. Kim, welcome.
Hello. Hi, Bernie. Hi, Dave. How you doing?
Good. You're a very special person, being the first guest on the first show. Are you feeling so amazing right now?
I am completely honored. Thank you. Humbled.
Well, we're very glad to have you. Thank you for taking a chance on us. We know it's it might be strange coming on for something new, but we're glad to have you here.
Yeah, this is great. I'm looking forward to tuning into this every other week.
Awesome.
Cool. So I do have some questions for you. And the first question I have is, tell us about Colchester Cares.
Yeah, sure. So Colchester Cares is a giving group with members who commit to donating $100 every quarter. Really, our goal is to help people give back to Colchester specifically in an easy and simple way. So it's very little time commitment for members. Donations can be made online, and it's 100% tax deductible. All of the $100 every quarter goes to the chosen causes. And at this point, we started in June, July of 2020, and we're up to 33 members, which means every quarter we can give $3,300 in donations, and that's $13,200 a year.
Wow. That's really cool.
Can you tell us some of the organizations or causes that Colchester Cares has supported so far?
Yeah, sure. So we have the ability not to just donate to like a nonprofit or, an organization like that. We go through a donor advised fund. So we can, as long as it's a worthy cause, we can donate to a for-profit, a business, an individual in need. We've done a lot of donations through youth and social services in town. They're such a central hub in our community for, donations. They run the fuel bank, the food bank. They can identify Colchester residents in need. So we've done a lot of donations through them. We've also supported the senior center, the garden club, the fire department, and clubs like Rotary and Lions Club in our town that do their own volunteer work and service work and donations. And it's actually been nice because with the pandemic, a lot of those groups have been having a hard time raising funds. They haven't been able to hold their in-person events like they usually do, which raise money. So Colchester Cares has been able to give donations to them to really boost and bolster what they're already doing in our town.
That's great.
And how much have you donated thus far? Do you have a number?
Yeah, so $15,300 total.
That is incredible. It's very inspirational for someone like yourself and the people who are joining to go and do this. So pretty
Yeah,
cool.
I mean, what's cool is that's $100 a quarter from each member. And when you
Right.
get a bunch of people together, it adds up and it makes a difference. And it looks like such a big number when it goes. And for an individual that's a member for a full year is $400, which is a lot, but that's when you times that by a lot of people, it adds up and it's pretty cool to see.
Yeah, that's excellent. Can you tell us just a little bit more about the process for choosing the groups or causes you support? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So what we do is, we hold a meeting on the second Tuesday of every quarter. So, we're meeting in January, April, July, and October. The meetings are completely optional, but we use that as a way for members to get together. We'll either do it online or in person based on lately on COVID or whatnot. It gives people a chance to discuss what's going on in the town, even brainstorm, throw out some ideas. And then we allow every member, whether they're at the meeting or not, to offer up one cause. And that usually gives us a pool of causes that we put on an online survey. And then every member, whether they're at the meeting or not, gets a chance to look at that survey and vote on their top 3 choices. And they rank them, in order. And then we tally up the votes, and the winner gets 50% of whatever our donation pool is for that quarter. And then the second and third place each get 25%. So it's, whatever we have for that particular quarter always gets split up, 50% for our first place. And then we give 50% of the dollars to that winner. And then, 25% and 25% to second and third place.
Awesome. So every quarter you're supporting usually multiple causes.
Correct. Yes. And it's evolved since we started, but that's kind of the way we sort of evolved into once we had enough dollars to get pulled together, and seeing as we're only focused on Colchester, it was a way for us to kind of spread our dollars and for people to think like, okay, who do I want to support? And I can make a big impact, with more than one person.
Sure.
Awesome. So the people that are watching, if they're like, wow, this is awesome, which it is, how can people join the Colchester Cares group?
Yeah, so we have a website, colchestercares.org, and there's a join button, and we just have a simple form. It's no commitment. We just use the form to keep track of our members. People can leave the group and come back as they wish. There's nothing really holding them to stay. And then the $100 is due after we vote. So really, there's you can join using that form, and then we stay in touch via email. And then we also have a Facebook page that we use just to help promote and get the word out about what we're doing and who we're donating to.
Awesome. Well, I dropped your link to your website in our show live feed. So people go ahead, check that out if you're interested in joining and donating. Is there anything else you want to share about Colchester Cares?
No, I'll just say, the credit really goes to the members. My husband and I started this. We were able to easily, based on some ties that we had to the foundation that we work with. So, really, we're just the logistics, and just want to thank everyone that's joined so far, because it really makes an impact.
Awesome.
Well, thank you for joining, Kim, and hopefully we see more members come out of this. And I wish you
Yeah.
good night. Thanks.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys. Thanks so much. And I'll keep tuning in.
All right,
Thanks.
great. Thank you.
All right.
Have a good night.
All right. Well, we hope everyone is enjoying listening to tonight's show. We're going to go ahead and take a look at some of the comments that you left in the feed because we want to see some of your takes on what's happening in Colchester. So Mary Bylone, former first selectman, left a comment. She said that she was excited to hear what's happening in Colchester and she thanks us for doing this.
Oh, good old Mary. Thanks, Mary.
Dave, are you able to see the live feed?
Yeah, I'll do the next one here. Debbie Marvin. What should a signature quote Colchester infused whiskey be infused with?
Ooh,
Great
that's a
question. I wonder if we can take look at our local restaurants and maybe take something, maybe not for every single one of them. But hey, why not? You know, we're having fun here. Take a little bit of something from every restaurant and we'll call it Colchester's finest. Colchester's finest whiskey. How about that?
Sounds good to me. Stephanie Armstrong says, thanks for setting the record straight. I think she's talking about the hybrid meeting room issue. And Catherine Paquette also said, appreciates us addressing the tech issue. She thinks it's a great idea. She doesn't appreciate how Mr. LaChapelle misrepresented her words, not mine, the pause rationale of the 3 dissenting members. She wants us to address elected official conduct on social media. And, you know, that is a big subject. I don't think we'll get into that tonight, but I think that we will discuss that, you know, in the future, because I do think that the way that people are interacting with each other online in general in our community isn't always constructive. And that when elected officials engage in that, it continues to perpetuate something that's, you know, problematic and hurting our town instead of moving things forward.
Yeah. All right. What's next here? Wait. All right. Russell, thank you for doing this. Gail Furman, this was great. Thanks. Karen Scholl, great first episode. I look forward to tuning in for community updates. And Jenny Caplet, love this idea. Nice job with a thumbs up.
Hey, no hate mail in our first show. So
yeah, well, I'm disappointed.
Somebody out there didn't like it. I know it.
Come on, give me something. No, well, that's cool. Of course, we definitely love the feedback and questions, because actually the interactive part of this is what makes it really fun. And so as you're tuning into the next episode, we do encourage your questions, your comments, because we'll address them on the air here.
Yeah. So
Looks
before
like
we
that's it.
wrap up tonight, Dave, I know you want to be able to share a mental health tip with everyone. So Dave, tell us what's on your mind this week.
Yes. And I appreciate it. So I do put out a little bit of content videos about mental health. I just think it's so important. And I know it's kind of cliche to say, but if I can help one person, it is worth it. So I hope everyone is okay with me doing that. I'll do it anyway, but anyway. So I appreciate it, Bernie. So you obviously your mental health is very, very important. And it's imperative that we just pay attention and we listen to ourselves. So we all know what our normal is, and we all have those good and bad days. However, if your bad days are overshadowing your good days, then it might be time to take some steps to find some help. And sometimes that help is just grabbing a coffee with a friend, or going for a walk, or watching some funny cat videos online, which I do recommend. So, and if these relatively simple things are just not working for you, just not feeling good from a mental perspective, then please contact a professional who can really put you in the right direction. It's not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of strength that you can set up for yourself and really feel great about yourself. And that is a lot of strength in that.
I agree. Thanks for sharing, Dave. And thank you, everybody who joined us tonight for our first show. We had fun. Tune in again in 2 weeks We're trying to do this every other Thursday. We want to make sure that our meetings don't conflict with the meetings of the Board of Selectmen, because we know how important it is for residents to be able to watch, tune in, or go in person to those meetings. So don't forget, next week, Board of Selectmen meeting on March 17th. The week after that, March 24th, we'll be back here on Facebook Live. Right, Dave?
Absolutely. See you all then. Have a good night.
See you, everyone. Thanks,
See ya.
Dave.
Bye.